This is another cue, another signal that points to surfing being completely front-footed. If you understand this high-level concept, then you're gonna be able to take your surfing to the next level no matter what. Front-footed surfing is a concept that can help everybody across the board, from beginner to professional. That is why it is the backbone of the sport. It's one of the backbones of the sport, one of the fundamental concepts. If you want to be a good surfer, the only thing you have to do is master fundamentals. The reason why many people don't improve in the sport of surfing is because they don't think fundamentals are important. They focus on they want to get someone magical, like a magical coach that makes you jump out of a trampoline 3 times and show you a fancy movement. In reality, the only thing that you have to do in order to master the sport is learn the fundamentals right. You know, if you're able to apply those, you're gonna be able to surf as good as you want, and you're gonna be able to become a black belt, which 98% of the surfers in the world are stuck today. And it's because of this concept. This is the third signal on why surfing is a front-footed sport. So this is the wheelie effect. Professional surfers are aware of this concept, but they don't really know how to name it or talk about it. Crosby Colapinto called it out the wheelie effect. I took this from one of Crosby Colapinto's Instagram posts, a list of the things that he had to do in order to improve his surfing back in the day. And then we can read here on the first line something really important. Work on making my car smoother, no wheelie at the end of the carve. When a surfer breaks or stalls, the rail disengages. Professional surfers hate when the rail disengages. This is what the wheelie effect is. It's a kick on the back foot that disengages the rail, and they do a wheelie on a turn. Here is the proof. Crosby Colapinto even wrote this as he was getting better when he was young. This is one of his biggest goals, to get rid of this fundamental mistake. When the rail is no longer engaged in the water, the surfboard is not accelerating. So rail engagement is currency in the sport of surfing, just like weight distribution is currency in the sport of surfing, because they're completely related. When the rail is not engaged in the water, you're not generating speed, but you're slowing down, and that points to weight on the back foot. Yeah, no wheelie at the end of the carve. Do a little bit of a zoom in that presentation. This is something that no longer affects his surfing. You can see his carves are with the rail engaged the whole way through. That means that until the end of the turn, the rail stays engaged all the way through. On the way down, on the wave phase, the whole rail is engaged. 100% of the rail. You can see the whole thing is on the water right there. When the rail is not engaged in the water, the surfboard is not accelerating and you're not creating currency, and the tail is dragging in the water and slowing you down. Anyone can learn this. An intermediate surfer, beginner surfer, anyone can learn. It's so easy. It's just as easy as having your weight in the front foot. Again, there's no magical pill that is going to substitute having the correct fundamentals in the sport of surfing. And the tail is dragging the water and slowing you down. I'm going to show you an example of what it is to do a wheelie effect. You know, and here we have two surfers. They both start in the carving really good, basically, both with weight forward at the same time. And then something really common happened in the second surfer, that the surfer that it is on the right side of the screen. This surfer in here disengaged the rail of the surfboard. Basically, you can see it in here. The whole rail is lifted. This surfer right here is surfing with the weight on the back foot, doing a kick on the back foot. It's a wheelie at the end of the carve, basically. A lot of professional surfers talk about this. A lot of professional coaches, quote unquote, that haven't never talked about weight distribution and then how that affects rail engagement, they will say, yeah, at the end of the carve, you need to do a extension of your back foot. You need to do an extension of your back foot so you end up compressed on the front foot, and it's a weight transfer. There is no weight transfer. The weight has to be forward all the time, because the rail, you want to engage the rail the whole way through the whole time. You know, you cannot disengage the rail in the midst of a turn. because that would mean slowing down, and then it's taking chances from you to create currency or speed, and it looks really bad to do a back foot kick at the end of the carve or through the carve. Again, not only intermediate surfers are doing this mistake, but professional surfers on tour are also making this mistake at the end of their carve. Sometimes they kick on the tail of their surfboard to try to reach to the white water or something like that, or like to try to accelerate more, engage with more power. Why? Because every single coach growing up told them that you create speed out of kicking off the tail of the surfboard, and this is completely fundamentally wrong. They did that, and then what's it with the weight on the back foot? You have to think where this thought comes from. Does it come because the fins are back there? Yeah, the fins are like this size, and then they're like a certain size, but the rail is 10 times longer, and actually rail engagement is currency in surfing, and nobody ever like see the comparison in between the both. Nobody ever put a name on the comparison. So in reality, this concept that nobody studied and everybody's teaching, you put the weight on the back foot, you put the weight on the back foot. I'm gonna take the job of every single coach in the world, basically. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna steal their job, and I'm sorry about that, but then everybody that's teaching weight on the back foot is just ripping off your money, repeating everything that is on, like you can find that on Google Gemini or ChatGPT. Oh, carve of the back foot. This is actually how it looks, and it's a fundamental mistake. This is why, if rail engagement all the way through a carve is such an important thing, then why is everybody talking about kicking the back end of the board? This is what kicking the back end of the board does in the end of the day. You can see in the video here, John kicking off the back end of the board and disengaging the rail completely. And this is what people is actually teaching in order to generate speed. So it's a complete dissonance in between the both. Do you understand that? If you understand this concept, which is so simple, you'll understand how weight distribution forward is such an important and fundamental concept. It is the backbone of the sport. There is no magical pill. If you're looking for a coach to make you jump off a trampoline and show you something fancy without no base, oh yeah, just come to my trampoline, jump off my trampoline. But they're actually not giving you a base. Your brain is not gonna be able to repeat something that doesn't understand completely. And I'm giving you the fundamental backbone of the sport, which is have your weight on the front foot. Okay? The only two occasions that I want you to put the weight on the back is when you want to avoid nose diving and when you want to stall, either for a barrel or you're waiting for the wave to develop. Those are the only, that's the outline. The rest of the time, have the way forward. Rail engagement, changing rails, even when you have to change rails, which is a really big common mistake. Sometimes people use the back foot to change rails. So they go engage the rail, then do a weight transfer to the back foot, then change to the other rail. What happens when you sink the back end of the board and then the front end of the board? You dog dive and you bug rail. Bugging a rail is a byproduct of doing weight transfers while you're surfing. And then a lot of times, professional surfers bug rails and they blame it on the board, but they maybe took a decision of putting the weight on the back foot and doing a weight transfer when the weight should be forward the whole time, just like snowboarding. Snowboarding is absolutely the same. It's absolutely the same. Snowboarders are able to accelerate so much, and they don't even have fins. They just use the rails and weight forward. The sport is a little bit more developed till this concept is more studied, but this is pretty obvious in here. Why is it that I have to listen to WSL commentators, I have to listen to some of the best coaches in the world explaining this concept when it actually disengages the rail? It's actually so simple and easy. And I just gave you the whole outline. I'm just giving it to you for free right here. It's really simple. It's not that difficult, you know? You can see how that movement that John's repeating here is completely disengaging his rail. You cannot turn like that while you are on a surfboard. It's not the same. This is not race car driving where when carving doesn't mean slowing down through a rotation. Carving means getting the rail and knifing the whole section. And the only way to sink the whole rail of the board, you want to sink as much rail as possible in the correct way, it is through weight distribution forward. That is the only way to sink your rail. If you understand this, then you'll take your surfing to the next level, because this is the secret of going fast. Also, weight distribution, it is the secret of changing rails easily, because you have to flatten the board before. Flatten the board means the whole belly of the board needs to be on the water like this, basically, in order to change to the other rail easily. So it's a front foot to front foot transfer in order to do it easily. Professional surfers are not conscious of this because they learn it from such a young age. It's a subconscious movement instead of a conscious movement. And when they and if they have a wrong concept in their mind, whenever they get conscious on a wave and they're like, okay, I want to add extra power in here, and then they kick off the back foot, they lift the whole rail, and that's the moments where professional surfers sometimes bug the rail because of that simple concept. And that's how I know that surfing can still be elevated, the level can still be elevated. Whoever is in using these concepts, they really have a opportunity to take on the world by storm, and then just getting all their hits done. It's such a new concept that if you learn it, if you apply it, then you just like have a massive edge and advantage if you understand how to use your rails. And then the moments where you want to push harder, you push harder with the opposite foot, with the front foot, instead of like kicking the tail when you want to accelerate, so you can have more power. There's a lot of videos that I'm going to do where are explanatory on why speed, weight distribution forward, and balance are all the same thing. So the more weight distribution forward you have, the more balance you're going to get on a wave. So weight distribution forward equals also balance. The more weight forward, the more balance I get. So that's why weight distribution forward is a concept that across the board is a fundamental concept. It helps everybody. I repeat it all the time. I repeat it, I repeat it, I repeat it. Yes, I know that, but it's just like sometimes you have to repeat a couple of times in order for people to understand something so simple. And then repetition also builds muscle memory. If I repeat it 100 times, then you'll be able to use it, actually. So that's why I repeat it so much. Now, this is the thing. This is the fundamental concept I want you to learn from the wheelie effect that Crosby Colapinto wrote on his list when he was, I don't know how many years old. But then, like, he doesn't do this anymore. A lot of surfers do, though. And then, like, sometimes when they wipe out, oh, they're gonna blame it on the board. No, no, no. Don't blame it on the board. Blame it on the fact that you use back foot in order to do a turn, do a rotation, and then you do a weight transfer, and that's what bogging rail is. What is the definition of a duck dive? You sink the front end of the board, and then you sink the back end of the board. What is the definition of rail bogging? Sorry, I'm trying to speak too fast. What is the definition of rail bogging? You sink the tail, and then you sink the front end. You do a weight transfer. It's a backwards duck dive. I just gave you such a high level concept right there. It's just so easy. So this is the fundamental concept of the wheelie effect that I want you to understand. The rail disengages when you kick on the tail. This is a fundamental concept of weight distribution. When you choose to stall for a barrel and you kick on the tail, your surfboard really hard, it again does a wheelie. Yet some people think that kicking on the tail is completely necessary for a rotation, and that is why progression in surfing is capped massively for everybody. The thing that everybody believes is that you should pivot off your back foot instead of your front foot. Commentators on WSL reinforce this constantly. Pro surfers are not aware. They pivot off the front foot and then they teach the complete opposite and cap progression for everybody in the world. Sometimes they even mess it up for themselves too, because in the moments where they actually think on a wave, because most of the time they're not thinking, they're just feeling, because they learn it from such a young age. When they think, they're like, oh, I'm gonna kick this wave so hard with my back foot, and they lose balance, speed, stability, basically. And so they're not only capping progression for the world, but they're capping progression for themselves. Even pro surfers simply say the weight's on the back foot, and the reality is that none of them has studied weight distribution in depth and from a biomechanical standpoint. And that is not trying to offend anyone, but try to elevate the sport of surfing altogether. The reason why I'm shouting is that this concept is so important. If you understand it, then you're understanding the backbone and the heart of the sport, a fundamental concept. That's how big this is. It's a fundamental concept that's misunderstood massively, and that is my task to get that concept across to help as many people as possible. But I know that people will remember me for this because I am going to advocate for weight distribution forward to be the most important determining factor for success in a surfer. Basically, the most important concept in surfing is completely related to speed. The currency in surfing is massively misunderstood until now. Thank you. Watch for the next cue in the next video. And yeah, this is again a back foot kick that just disengages the rail. Don't do that on the carve. Extend your front foot instead of the back foot. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next cue on why surfing is a front-footed sport, the next signal that helps me read that.